in OnShape and then bring it into a SolidWorks realm like we have, or Mastercam like we do, and progress quicker. It's my goal.
Awesome.
Of course, my students won't like it. That'll be homework, but oh well.
Right.
Okay, so I don't know about other people. They might have, I don't know. So we're not waiting anymore. We're gonna start your demo, and thank you, Nick and Brian, for running this demo for us. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate it. I'm gonna let you take over.
Sure thing. I will. So I think best way to do this, probably have Brian share his screen if possible, and he can kind of do an overview of the OnShape Enterprise. It sounds like you guys both have some experience with the education standard. So this will kind of help explain and show you guys what the other features are that are included in this. And this is going to be free through August of 2021. Just want to make that kind of preface that before we get going.
Oops, sorry, I was on mute there. Is everybody able to see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay. So if you are familiar with OnShape, you know that is browser-based CAD. We like to call it the Google Docs of CAD. If you're using, you guys said you used to using SolidWorks, which is an on-premise CAD application. Well, OnShape is all in the browser. You log in and you're working in OnShape as soon as you put in your online credentials. So I have this academic demo enterprise that I'm going to log in and kind of just walk you through and show you how the enterprise is different. First, I'll just give you a quick overview. The enterprise is a private domain space. So in regular OnShape, in the free standard version, you have all of your documents and everything in your own personal workspace. In the enterprise, you have a private domain that's your own school, and you basically it's your own castle. It's your own space for all your work and all your students' work to be saved. And as the administrator, you have control over that space, and more importantly, visibility over that space. So it's all the work is in one space versus every student having a separate account and a separate workspace, and then having to share documents in between that. The enterprise takes care of all that by having a one-stop shop for everything. There's the data analytics, which allows you to see basically every click in OnShape, and every click that's done by your students is saved in OnShape. And it's searchable, and you can filter through it and kind of see modeling time and what students are working when and on what documents. And then we have action items feature, which is a collaboration tool I'll show you. There's SSO integration, so I don't know if you guys have any ability to integrate with that thing. Many schools use Google, and they have SSO. So this is a huge feature in OnShape. And it allows teachers to add their students to the enterprise without having them create OnShape accounts. They can just sign in with their SSO. So let me take you just to that portion of it first so I can show you how that works. Right now, I just logged into my enterprise. You notice the domain is different up here. I'm at this academicdemo.onshape.com. That would be whatever you're choosing of your school. That would be your domain, your specific area for of your choosing. It would say, sorry, I don't actually know the name, whatever abbreviation you would use for your high school would go there, .onshape.com. And then in your enterprise settings, you would be able to import from CSV to bulk upload students to the enterprise. you would download a template, put in their email address, and then save it, upload the template, and they would be sent an invitation to join the enterprise. This SSO is what I was talking about. You'd be able to configure this. If you had Google, do you guys use a Google SSO, or do you use Clever or something else?
Most schools are using the Google suite of products. Great.
Yeah. So if you wanted to, you can enable that, and then when you do that upload of students, they would be getting an option to just click sign in with Google once this is enabled. So before anything else has happened, you're up and running. You're saving time. You're not instructing students to go and to create OnShape accounts. They actually don't need a username and password if you have this enabled. So that integration would work very nicely for you. And it's really that simple. It's just enabling this, configuring here with Google. And we can walk your teachers through this and do onboarding sessions with you to help you out with that. There's also really great online resources to help you guys set this up.
I see Steve has a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. So,
no, not at all.
Well, we're using OnShape. Obviously, we're 15 weeks into the school year. What happens to the work they've generated already? And follow-up question would be, if we went to this version and then we jumped back to the standard version, what would happen to the work that was in there that they had already generated?
Yeah, great question. So if they have a separate OnShape personal account that they've been working in, and they wanted to use that same email address, or they would have to because it's a school email that they've been using, they would still be allowed to be added to this enterprise, but their documents would be separate. So if they then wanted to bring those projects over and then add them to the enterprise, they would have to package them together in a folder or such, and then transfer them to the enterprise administrator. And then the enterprise administrator, one of you presumably would have to transfer the ownership of those documents into here. And we do it that way just so that no people from the outside, even if they are members of the enterprise, can't just be flooding your space that you have control over with their documents. But they certainly have that ability, and they would still be able to access their personal accounts. They would just need to go to cad.onshape.com up here, and that would take them to that workspace, and then they could use their OnShape username and password and sign in that way.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very common question we get. There's also the ability to disable the OnShape username, sign in, and password, but that's kind of getting into a little bit too much depth. The ability to log in with Google to the enterprise, though, is causes some confusion there. You do still need the username and password to get into cad.onshape.com. So after I have my users in here, a good way to group them together is through teams. And you can create as many teams as you want and group your users together. And what this will do is it allows you to share documents to these specific teams and configure permissions for the enterprise. So give specific groups of users certain different view access or edit access, and just different permissions in the enterprise. So I can go over those really quickly. I'm now on the second tab here. I'm in my permissions. So this is where this is the only thing that takes maybe a little bit of time to set up, but often you are just treating your teachers and your students and giving them both just different permissions. So as long as you have those groups of users created, you can pretty easily go through this. So Enterprise Administrator, this is ability to give full control over all resources. You can also give, usually you want to leave this for not to give it to every student, or otherwise they can kind of mess around. So just one or two teachers, give them that admin privileges. There's the ability to manage users and teams. Again, recommended just for teachers. But then you know, there's some other permissions in here. Invite guests, manage role-based access control. That has to do with projects. Usually you want to leave that off as well. Permanently delete, look at analytics, create projects, create leases, approve releases, access to the App Store. So all of this can be configured. And we have recommendations for education settings that we can, that are really helpful guides to get you through this process as well. But this sign on with the users and in creating the teams and the permission schemes and everything really gives you a lot of control over what's happening in your CAD classes and what's happening in your OnShape space. So the next thing we can talk about is we can just talk about the analytics tab here. Like I said previously, is basically every click is saved in OnShape and you can search it. I have some presets saved here just for activity overview. I'm clicking and I can filter this in any way that I want in the past 15 days, whatever project I want. This is just an overview. It's showing me everything that's happening in my enterprise, and it's showing me who's been working on what, how much time they've been spending, what days they've been working on, what users been working on what document. And this is all very searchable and very searchable, and you can really cater it and filter it in terms of document name, project, feature. You can look up specific users if you're concerned about an individual student, for example. You would be able to look that up, no problem. This is an example I like to show, which is an audit of document copies. So if there is any concern about that, you can actually search any time this copy workspace action has been done, and you can even put the number of days. So as this load, it takes a little bit of time to load sometimes, but this is going to show me anytime in the past 120 days that copy workspace event has been triggered. And so this is it's just a really useful tool, and it gives you 100% visibility on anything that's happening in the enterprise, like I said. Does anybody have any questions to this point?
So again, Stephen Lindridge, Candor High School. Is that similar to what OnShape has on the right side when you select a document, not open it, but someone that shared it with you? On the right side of the standard version, it shows you how many minutes they've worked on that document, the process by which they went through the construction of that document, and basically where it originated. What you just showed us is a further delve into that, correct? I mean, that's deeper than what I'm seeing.
Are you talking about like the versions and history of the
No,
part?
actually, I don't know how to explain it. You just had it a second ago. So if you go back to like click the OnShape icon in the upper left there, and just open up like my OnShape files on the right side, right where it says on, where there's a an oblique L-shaped cube, it says select the document or folder. When I select a document, that area over there becomes populated.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, you just had it. You just closed it.
Is this the one you're talking about here?
No. Go back to the original screen, please. No. Huh.
Like there was a right-hand side.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Details. That's what it was.
Oh,
so
yes.
So I actually
sorry, I keep clicking around here.
No, it's okay. Because I actually found an anomaly in a drawing, and I started digging, and I found that detail, and not like it shows owner, created by. It's amazing, and it also that continues to go down through. I think it's open workspace maybe on that same menu. Is that it gives you like what that person did. I guess that's not where I was looking, but it gave what that person did to fulfill, to complete that assignment. So what I'm doing is some of my assignments, I require them to use like a circular sketch pattern or a linear sketch pattern, to develop their skills. And I can look in that right-hand side there and actually see how they went about doing it.
Yeah, so this is gives you a little bit of a detailed overview here, right? This pane is what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was more to it though, if I remember correctly.
In the versions in history, you can actually see who started the document and everything else that's happened in it, right? Which is totally unique to OnShape and something that I just love and I get really excited about, because you can manage it. I mean, this is basically all your product lifecycle management in here as well, right? It's all your data management. Not only that, but you can also, you can create versions, which I'm not sure if you've experienced doing that as well, but you can create versions and stop a part and submit it for grading, and then continue working, and then the instructor can come back to it and it'll be saved at that point. And then, the fact that multiple students can do this, you really can't beat the collaboration in OnShape. These are not unique features to Enterprise, right? These are just part of the free version as well, but it's part of all of this type of collaboration when your work is all in one space in the Enterprise and you get multiple students working in more documents than you would have normally. This type of stuff is even more beneficial, I should say. Did you have a specific question about that, or about looking in terms of analytics, or that audit that we were looking at here?
Yeah, I like the audit function of this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it really is. You can search for anything. I'll just open up really quickly here. I'm just clicking on an individual users. You can click on the three dots there, and I'm opening up individual user dashboard, and this is going to just show me all of Mackenzie's activity. She can show her when she's working, what document she's working on, what she opened. Just super, super useful and detailed, and really useful for educators as well, because there's some student who's not working as much or spending a lot of time. You have all that information right there. The other feature with Enterprise that you do not have with the free version is this action items function, which allows me to assign based on, I can assign a task right in the part here. So I'm actually going to tag myself just so it shows up so you can see in the demo, and I'm going to say submit for grading, and I'm just tagging part of the geometry here, and I'm clicking assign. That's going to show up. I have this in the Enterprise. I have this tab over here that says action items. That's going to show up, and you can see it right here. So this is a really handy way to kind of manage your classroom as well. You can instruct your students to, this will be how I want to submit my work, to comment and tag and assign to the teacher, and you'll find a list of documents, that submissions right in your action items here. And then of course, if I click on that, it takes me right to the document. Oops. So I think that really covers most of the things, most of the features with the Enterprise specifically. The release management workflows was the one thing that I didn't cover, but we usually don't like to introduce educators to those. It causes a little bit more confusion, and it's more of a commercial aspect for the Enterprise. But are there any questions you guys had, or specific just OnShape in general questions that you had that are not necessarily Enterprise specific? I can answer those as well.
I'm curious, and maybe this is one of those things that you're not able to answer and would have to be done in an offline way, but do you have contracts with BOCES or New York State Education Department for these, because there were a lot of privacy rules that are required, like Ed2D law and such in New York State K-12 that start applying. And I'm just wondering, a lot of these software enterprise licensing agreements end up going through BOCES. And so I was just wondering.
I know we comply with the New York ED2 laws.
Yep.
I'm not 100% sure what the BOCES is, but last I checked, as of 2 weeks ago, we comply with all New York State privacy laws. And I can also send over our privacy center that kind of details all that out. If you ever have any questions or like want to have something back to refer to, that's always going to be the most updated.
Okay. Yeah, the Ed2D is the big one, and then that's so districts could contract directly, or perhaps if several are doing it. BOCES ends up being it's basically like a consortium of school districts, and they usually help with doing licensing and agreements and such. So, okay.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Victoria, on a high school side, OnShape was amazing at how quickly they got back to the Ed2D stuff for us.
Okay.
I think we submitted and we got it back within 3 or 4 days.
Great.
So yeah, it was amazing. That was unlike everything else we did, but OnShape was really just unbelievable.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm just thinking, especially as looking at all these features and the information that's tracked with students. I know that's something districts will be concerned with, so that's good to know.
Brian, I'm dying. Does your spinning reel actually spin?
I've been dying to show you. Let's. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay, so that's where I'm a little shy in knowledge base of how to get assemblies to work and get them to work correctly. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. I'm definitely biased at this point, but I will tell you, assemblies are easier in OnShape than any CAD system I've ever used. So I don't, without getting too technical and too into the weeds, but we use make connectors, and that make connectors is basically like it's an AI function of what parts are connecting where. And so when you build your part studio, and I didn't go over any of this because it's not OnShape specific, but right, the part studio is you're designing the parts in context of each other, but then you're actually assembling them. In this case, I'm going to the different part studios here. You're actually assembling them in a different tab, and in the different tab is when you're specifying how the parts go together. So you're designing them around each other, and then in a separate tab in the same document, just right next to it, you're saying how do they actually fit together, what mates are there. And in the make connectors, the AI will basically guide you through and hold your hand and understand what you're trying to connect where, and you're just clicking and then adding the mates. It's really ahead of its time, and it couldn't be easier to use because it's all just browser based and it's all in one place. Forget about files. It's all documents and everything is in the same document.
Right. So I guess that leads me to my next question, which might be too elementary. SolidWorks, we make individual files and then drag them in, and we did the same thing with OnShape. What you're telling me is we can put all of these in the same quote unquote document and manipulate them into the assembly. Is that true?
That is exactly what I'm telling you. Yeah, that's true. In fact, it's better than that. You can build multiple parts in one space in context of each other. So let me show you what I mean. That I was showing you that assembly there.
Yep.
This is not an assembly, but it is a part studio, which has a rotor, a lock washer, a spring cover, a spool. These are all parts, and they're their own parts, and they're just in the same just gonna try and show you some of the sketches here. They're just sketched and extruded in the same space here. And then you would go to a separate window and a separate tab, and I would go down here and I'm clicking plus, and I'm creating an assembly in the same document. So I have part studios, assemblies, drawings, and as a teacher, this is a really nice feature too, is I can import PDFs, images, anything else, assignment instructions, and I can save those all too, right in the same place. So you could do this type of thing where you can create a document in your enterprise. You can put in your, you can put in a starter file, a starter part studio, and then import an assignment in a PDF and start assembling it, and then say, okay, here, and hand it off to your students. And then go back and share the document with them and then have them finish it, right?
Yep.
So I know I got a little excited there, but I think that to answer your question, yeah, you really just are using one part studio to design all your parts that go together around each other.
Okay, so how do you make a multiple part studio? We have not done that. And second question, SolidWorks, I can bring in from McMaster Car. They have an online catalog for their hardware. So if I need a quarter 20 bolt that's 2 inches long, I can get a file for that and dump that into SolidWorks. I know SolidWorks has that built in, but for specialty things, we can dump that in. Does this have that capability as well?
Yeah, so we actually have like standard content in here. Is
Yep.
Is that your question? Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, SolidWorks has standard content as well. But what I'm saying is there's specialty fasteners, maybe like a castle nut, for example, or a cotter key, that if we want something that's specific, we can go to McMaster Car, and there's an online portion of McMaster Car where you can grab those files, and I forget what format they're in, but you can dump them right into SolidWorks and actually manipulate that fastener.
It's fascinating. I'm not sure. So I actually haven't done that. So I'm not sure. It's a good question. I'm not sure if you'd be able to manipulate it.
Okay.
But you would definitely be able to import it. I'm just not sure what that file type is.
Okay.
But with imported files, it comes in as a dead parametric solid into OnShape.
Okay, that'll work.
Yeah, but
okay,
you could definitely still import them.
Good, that's perfect.
So I just opened up I started a brand new document here just to not overwhelm you, but I have a part studio and assembly here.
Yep.
So I can just start my sketch. Let's just do something really simple. Oops.
Hey, no whoops.
And notice this is my part one right here, right?
Yep.
When I do a second sketch, I can save it, and then when I go to extrude it, I have this option here, which is new or add. And you can already guess where this is going.
Yeah.
New puts a new part here.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yep.
No, it's just stupid simple. I love it.
It's so simple. It's so simple and so easy, and it's intuitive.
And then you just right click. Can you right click on part one and call it something? Is that how you change the name? Brilliant. Yeah.
You're way ahead of me.
Great. Okay. Awesome. I love it.
And then, of course, the properties for each part are in the same thing, right? Revision history, release, export it. I can export it to, here's the different types of files. I get step files, Parasolid, STL, SolidWorks, IGES. You can assign materials. We have different material properties.
Where'd you see the material properties are in that same right-click menu?
Same right-click menu. So rename. The actual properties here, but the assigned material is right here.
Nice.
Yeah, this is just names, part number.
Okay.
if you want to get more advanced, and I don't know how down the road you want to get, but these are actual parts, right? Like these will show up in a BOM as parts.
Right.
And then the assembly here, I can just bring in, it's gonna ask me immediately whatever's in my first part studio. I can just bring both these in, and it's gonna come in just like I designed it, but they're not attached to each other, right?
Oh, that's sick.
And then let me show you how the mate connectors work while we're already in here. I want to do a fasten mate between these two pins. See how the AI is already picking where to go, where to tell me where to go. And now I know this is really simple, so it looks simple, but the mate connectors are just fantastic, even when you get in more complex designs. And so now this is my assembly. These two are mated together. I can move it around. If I want to fix it, it's not going to move anywhere, and we're good.
Nice.
Yeah, any more questions on that?
Well, my students will hate me after this. Thank you.
They're going to love it, though.
Sleep well at night. That means I'm challenging them. So if I want, just for giggles, I want that to be the blue part, a gear spinning on a shaft, which is gray. How did you go about doing that in OnShape? I know obviously it's in the assembly and the mate.
Yeah, you mean specifically with a gear?
Yeah, so I'm just calling the blue part a gear. Let's make the blue part a gear theoretically, and the gray part a shaft. And we're gonna make that gear actually float on that shaft, so it's a sliding fit.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, so you would have a cylindrical mate here.
Okay.
And so cylindrical mate is, I'm going to float over that again, the easiest way to show it. Constraint between two parts in assembly, parts can rotate and translate. So just select your mate connector, and then you're going to have a translating one and a spinning one, right? So it's a direction and then a rotational direction.
Nice.
And that's the great part about OnShape too, is if you float over it for a second, it actually tells you how to use all of these right here.
Yep. It's been very helpful for my students, I'll tell you that, especially, sitting at home.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's actually the other thing. It's a good segue too. Just with we have a really, really useful online help. There is just a ton of detail. Any question you have, you asked about gears a second ago, gear relation. I mean, that took me 2 seconds, right? And
wow.
And it's showing me all about gear relations here. And it's really easy to use, kind of like digestible content with instructions, numbered instructions, everything like that. And then the other thing too, I don't know if you guys have dabbled in this at all. I've got too many windows open here. Let me just, okay. Is the Learning Center. We always point to people who are new with OnShape, just about some of the learning pathways. There's OnShape Fundamentals, which will, if you've done a little bit of CAD before, haven't done OnShape, that's perfect. It'll take you through. It doesn't take too long, and it'll take you through everything, how to use OnShape, all that functionality in there. There's definitely some nice tricks and tips in there to that you might not otherwise figure out on your own as well. So we always recommend that. And then as well as there's a CAD Basics one which is a little bit step below. A lot of really great free materials in our Learning Center. There's also this pathway, so I don't know how many teachers you guys would have using, but there's this learning pathway for educators, which just has a few different videos about creating assignments, receiving student work, some different ways and different options you have for doing that in the enterprise. And then as well as just some more useful videos here. So really great online materials pretty quick and easy to access that stuff as well.
All right. So, any other questions, Stephen? This demo is for you.
No, I love it. This is great. This has been really helpful.
Yeah, it's very helpful, Nick and Brian. Thank you so much for running this for us, and I hope to see you guys again in the next, maybe next advanced demo.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're glad to help. I'm glad this was useful for you.
Yes, thank you. It is pretty exciting to have, as you said, something that's more like the Google Docs version of of a CAD programming, because the other packages that schools are using have been so limited in only being able to use them at the school site. So I think many of our teachers will appreciate this.
And just like the Google Docs is, you never have to click save. So not saving your work is no longer an issue with students. So teachers love that part of it too.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, what I liked about this is it's not a limiting program, kind of like Google has a SketchUp or something. This is blows SketchUp out of the water. I mean, it allowed, like I said, it allowed us to feel confident in awarding, dual credit for a kid. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Well done.
I have to say that I was nervous when schools first went to OnShape. I did make assumptions that because it was at least I think schools were all using the free version, that if it was free, how could it be good? And so this is really more confidence building about just all the features, and it does seem to be a very powerful program. So.
Yes, it does.
And very intuitive. Cool. Well, thank you both for sharing your time on this evening for this, and